Hello and welcome to this new tutorial, and in this tutorial we will see how we can concatenate images in horizontal and vertical direction. It doesn't matter whatever their size is. Although in Emgu CV or in OpenCV there is a function for vertical and horizontal concatenation, but actually it requires the images of same size. So let's see how we can do that so that we will get the result something like this. As you can see, there are three images and all three images are different size. And similarly, if we want to concatenate in vertical direction, so we will get something like this. So let's see how we can do that. I have already created a Windows Forms application with Emgu CV 4.4. If you don't know how to configure it, you can check one of my previous videos. So I created this helper CS class in my previous videos. So in this class, let me add one more method. Let's say public static, and it will return basically an image, and its type will be BGR and depth will be in bytes. So it is not recognizing this BGR. It means we need to import this cv.structure, and let us name it like h concatenate images. And as a parameter, let's say we are taking a list of images and they are of type BGR byte. Let's call them images. So the first thing that I will do here is a try catch block. So let's say with the exception, if there is an exception, throw new exception and we can return ex dot message. Since we are concatenating the image in horizontal direction, so basically I will create a very big image which should have the height or the number of rows equal to the biggest image in this list. So let us find the height of the biggest image, and let me say max rows, or the number of rows is equal to inside these images dot max, and I'm searching for basically x dot its rows. So we can calculate the total number of columns, or the sum of all columns is equal to images dot sum, and we can do it like x dot columns. So once we know the height and the width, or the number of columns of the desired image, we can go ahead and create a new image. So this will be image bgr byte, and we are going to name it as img output is equal to new bgr image. So total columns, we already know its height, max rows, and we can set it default all of them to be 0 0 0. So it will be like this, and now we can start looping through the images in the list and then copy into this output. So let me say integer x coordinate is equal to 0, and for I is equal to 1, and images dot count how many images we have. And then what we need to do is img output dot roi is equal to new rectangle, and for this rectangle we will start with the x coordinate. So it will start from 0, and the y will be also 0. So this is the x coordinate. Its width will be equal to the image ith image dot width, comma, images I dot height. So I can say images of I dot copy to, and we are giving img out. So once we copy that, I can set img out dot roi is equal to rectangle. So this one is not recognizable, so what I will do is rectangle dot empty. So this one, it will continue and keep copying, but one thing, since the coordinate needs to be changed, so the new coordinate for the next image will be equal to whatever images, whatever the image we had, dot width. So it is doing in the horizontal direction. And then once we copy all those stuff, we can now return the img output. So that's it. So we give a list of images, and then it loops through all those images, and then the important thing is how we create a new image using all those images, and then we are setting its ROI and then copy it into that image and then return it. And by the way, it is also possible that we can just create another overloaded method for the same concatenation. Sometimes we might have two images. Let's say img1 image, let rgb, byte. Let's say img1 comma bgr. Let me do bgr. Okay, and if we can easily do this by providing two parameters, it's okay. So let's say in this case we only want to concatenate two images, so we will be using this method, and if we have more than two images, we can create a list and then send it to them. So in this case, we need to find out which of the images has the biggest width. So that is quite easy. We can do something like this: image1 dot rows, if it is greater than image2 dot rows, put a question mark. If the first one's rows are greater, then we will be returning the rows, and otherwise we will be returning image2 dot rows. So this is how we find for two images. And the next thing that we need to do is just find the column sum for all the images. So in this case we have just two images. What we can do is img1 dot columns plus img2 dot columns. So simple. And then we need to create an image with the same thing, the number of rows and the columns. And we don't need the loop now here. So what I need to do is, let me get rid of all these stuff till here, and we also don't need this one. Let's start with the 0 0. For the first image that I want to copy, it should be the img1 dot width. Okay, and whichever image that you want, img1 dot height. So we are going to copy the first image into this specified location. Okay, and we do the same thing for the second image also. Let me set this ROI to be empty, and then I will copy the second image into this location. And in this case, what we need to do, the only this one will change, because we are in, when we are horizontally concatenating, only the x will change and y will be the same, and for the second case it will be equal to image2 dot width and image3 dot height, and we are just copying image2 and then return this back to the caller. And that's it. So this is for horizontal concatenation, and we can provide the list and also the two images only. Let me do the same thing for the vertical also. So let me copy it, and this one should be, for example, we call it vertical V. So if we have two images, how we can do that? So let's see. So many things will be the same, so I'm just going to copy all this stuff and paste it right here. So instead of rows, I'm just going to call it like columns, because we are now doing in the other way around. So this will be the max columns, so I'm just going to change columns and the columns. So we are doing it in the other direction. So columns. Okay. And so our total rows, that what should be the total height of the image, that is what we need to calculate. So instead of columns, I can say it is rows. That's it. And we can rename it. And over here we can call them rows, and also here we find the total number of rows that we need. And of course, when we are creating this image, here will be the maximum columns. So I just need to rearrange this one. That's it for the image. And when we are doing the copying, what we really need to do is the same thing for the first image. And the only thing, instead of we are changing the width, the only thing that we are going to do is to change the height, img1.height. So once we copy the first image, next our x location will be equal to, from the height or the number of rows of the first image, then we will start copying the second image. And that's it. And now we can do the same thing for a list of images. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it, and here we can create a list. So instead of one image, we have many images, and those images are coming as list. And let me delete this rest of it. Okay, so once we have these images, what we can do is the same thing that we did before. So images, so images.maximum, and here what we want to find out x, whatever the x maximum is according to its columns. So this one will calculate the image with the highest number of columns or the width. And for the second one, we can also do integer total rows images dot sum x dot rows. And then we just created the image, and here we can loop for integer y chord, let me call it, starts from 0, and for integer I is equal to 1, and images dot count. It will just keep doing the same thing, so I'm just going to copy one of them. I will be using it, and I don't need this part now. And here what I need to do is image, I can say y coordinate, y chord, and this one will be images of I dot width, images dot I dot height. And then we are just copying that image into the location, images, ith image dot copy into this one. And also I'm going to increase the y coordinate by the height of that image. So I dot height. Let me compile my project or rebuild the project. So let's go ahead and test these. I'm going to add images, let's say, and let me put it like this here. Let's say h concatenation and v concatenate. So let's double click on this h concate, and let me create a try catch. So let me create a list of images. So image and bgr images, and let me say it's list. And to open few files, I'm going to use this open file dialog, and dialog is equal to open file dialog, And let us show this dialog to the user using the show dialog method. And we will also make sure that the user has selected the file. So dialog result.ok, then we will be able to read them. One more thing I will allow is to allow the user only to select images. So I'm going to use dialog.filter, and this is basically a string, and we usually like it like this: image files. So these are the descriptions, and inside it we can write .jpg. I'm going to allow this .jpg, or maybe .star.jpeg, or maybe png, for example, star.png. And then we put a pipe here. So this indicates that this is just the description, and these are the actual extensions that it will check. So .jpg semicolon star.jpeg, for example, semicolon star.png, for example. So these are the only files that I allow the user to select. And one more thing that I will allow is to have multi-select is equal to true, so that the user can select more than one file, so that I will read it into this list. And then once we select those files, what we do is to loop through that. So loop variable, I call it file, in the dialog dot file names. So you can see it is a list of string array actually. So I'm looping through all those file names, and I will read them one by one and add them into my list. So let's say I should do like this dot a, and this is expecting a new object of img. So, and for this one it is expecting the file, so we pass the file. So we read this file, created the object, and add it into the list. And we hope that all the images have been read and have been put into the list. And once we have some images in the list, what we can do is to make sure that list.count is greater than 0, or I should say if we have two images, then we should concatenate them, or it's okay even one image. So what I'm going to do, img is equal to helper class dot h concatenation images, and as you can see it is an overloaded method, and this one takes two images and this one takes number of images. So let's say we pass the list of the images, and we hope that once we select the images and pass into this h concatenate, it will return us only one image after concatenating them all together, and we can show them in our picture box. One dot image is equal to img.a's bitmap. So remember that many of the people ask me where this method is not found. So you have to add the Nuget package for cv.bitmap. You have to install it separately. So this is the case for horizontal concatenation. So let me go ahead and do it for the vertical concatenation as well. And all those stuff will be the same, only I'm going to all we concatenate. Let us try it. So I'm going to start the project. Okay, so let's go and try this image horizontal concat, and let me select few images from this image. Let's say we select some images and open it, and those have been concatenated horizontally. As you can see, those three images have been combined. And let me do the vertical concatenation of any other three images. Let's say these three images and the app, and here you go. But I think I should have a scroll on for this one. let's go ahead and fix that as well. So this is the picture box, and this one says filled, and the size is normal. Instead, I should say it should be auto size. Okay, now you can see the scrolls. So the parent should be like auto scroll should be on for the panel, and for this one I set it to auto size. And now let's see. And the images, I'm going to select those images again. Let's say these are the images, few images, and open them. Now you can see a scroll also appears. So these are vertically concatenated, and when we do the horizontal concatenation, we can try with these images. So you can see that these are horizontally concatenated. And that's it. And by the way, if we want, for example, just for the sake of testing, we can try with the other method as well. So here what I'm going to do, instead of sending these images as a list, I can send them a list of the first image as well as list of the second image, and I make sure that I select at least two images. Just I will test with the horizontal vertical concatenation. So, and in this case I'm going to select another image, and this case I'm selecting these two. Okay, so you can see that it is also working perfectly, so there is no issue. So just I'm going to comment this line. Whenever you need this method you will be using it, and whenever you need this method you will be using it. And that's it. Hope to see you in another video.